Hello everyone, this is Yu Tsai. Welcome again. Thank you for joining me at Let's Talk. And what an incredible week it has been talking to women photographers out there, for anybody shooting fashion, celebrities, and across the board that I've been so inspired this week by all of you and amazing questions that you guys had that we were able to answer you guys. And today is such a special day for me because for those of you guys know out there that I was a wildlife biologist before I became a photographer. And my dream has always been traveling around the world and capturing those beautiful animals and landscape. And today, this photographer that you should know, and you all should know, because she's not just a photographer, she's actually, to me, a journalist, anthropologist, and what an amazing conservationist for our world. This is Ami Vitale. Hello, Amy.
Hi, it's so great to be here. Thank you for, I know it's such a departure from, a lot of your normal topics, but I love that, if you dig deep enough, all of us have this beautiful connection in some way to the natural world, and it's easy to forget that. But that's kind of, I love that's where we connect.
Well, absolutely. I know that. I first of all, I want to say thank you for being here and to put a new voice in the type of photographer fan base that we have here. Yes, we have talked to lots of fashion people, we have talked to lifestyle people, and I have a lot of still life photographers. And all we do, we have one thing in common is that we love to tell stories through different subject matters that we have. The subject matter you have chosen, have worked in the last 20 years or so, I think it's 23 years, I was trying to do the math, has been incredible. I've been following every step of every soil you stepped on, an incredible journey you have done. It's so, it's so emotional for me because it's not just the images you take, it's understanding the visual and the sensitivity and what those images bring. And that's what I really want to talk about that today. And on top of that, for those of you guys who are watching, Amy is a woman. And she's a woman photographer in an industry that's dominated by men, including myself, who's in this industry. It's a shame that we don't have enough perspective from women photographers. And that's why I want to have this week to really celebrate you as a woman, at the same time celebrate your point of view. And I truly believe that it's because of your point of view and how you see the world, you're able to tell the story that you tell. So tell us your story.
Well, yeah, I feel like a variety of viewpoints and diversity is always important. And my job is not just to make beautiful images. I love beautiful imagery, but to me, the story, showing how deeply interconnected all of us are, matters. And not just to each other, human beings, but also to the wild, to nature, to animals. And I think that is the one great lesson sort of from this pandemic. It is reminding all of us that, that's the one truth, that we are really in a small, deeply interconnected world, and that we need, the reason this whole pandemic happened is because it jumped from animals to humanity. And that's because of the great pressure human beings have put on this planet, and particularly to habitat loss and wildlife. And so that's where, I started my career actually telling the great human stories. I covered conflicts for a decade. I wanted to understand human beings. And then I realized I had this great, profound turning point about 10 years ago when I met the last of an entire species, the last northern white rhinos that were alive.
Before you go there, because I'm going to start crying and get super emotional about that, because I'm so attached to that particular pivotal point of your career. And for those of you guys just joined us, that I want to do a proper introduction here. That what Amy does as a photographer is that she's in the war zones and in photographing conflict, but at the same time, you're a reporter, you're reporting back, your assignment in very early days of your career, that this sent you to the darkest place, and you go there to find the light for us to see. And for those who don't know her work, please go back and take a look. Edinburgh Photography Museum had the collections of your work and your lectures. I was there in the back championing you. You don't know me then, but I was stalking you all the way back then when you gave me those lectures. But truly, when you open National Geographic, when you look at those images online and all those documentary, beautiful images, a lot of it you are looking at Amy's work. And if it's not her work, she has set a vernacular how to tell those stories. I want everybody to know that before we jump into this incredible moment, that that when I heard the story for the very first time, I cried. And but those you guys know that I also lived in Kenya for a small amount of time, and I was at Nairobi National Park, where you pretty much became your second home for a long time.
Good.
And when I got to see what was happening during the dehydration, and this is climate change, whether those people out there believe in climate change or not, it was happening, and animals were dehydrating. When I saw this ginormous dinosaur-like elephant dehydrated and die from that, we were there doing research for that, but that was nothing like what you captured
No, it's
for
all.
the world. You were at a place where we literally losing a species in our world. Share that story now.
Okay, yeah, and I think that it's not on watching any creature at all, any human being, anybody suffering in something that is completely, we actually have the capacity to make great changes for the better. And that's heartbreaking for any human being. I mean, we all have, I know most human beings, I believe in the best of humanity. We have empathy, we have understanding. And that's really what I try to do, is not just focus on the horrors of the world. I've seen that. And even in the most horrific places, I always found cause for light, cause for hope.
Absolutely.
You know,
And that is so different and defines your work. And I said that again, is that in your work there's always a hope and light. You
well,
didn't, you didn't just capture the darkness of the war, you captured the moment of how that hope is still there even in the darkest time. And I feel like that is so important and relevant now, that we're at a state of the world pandemic, and how I love that we're no longer arguing about climate effect. We're not arguing about all this stuff that people are disagreeing with. Only thing we have to agree with is one thing: this affects every human race and who we are around the globe. And what a nice moment for everybody to come together and say, together, kindness, giving, awareness can change this time and support each other.
yeah.
But along the way, you've been paving this path and you've been educating all of us with your work. I Talk to us about that moment when you capture that single species, the very last one on this planet.
Well, it's been a long story, and it happened. It really, I think that it's very easy. All of us get, in our little bubbles, and we don't actually always see how we all have this profound impact on one another, on each other. We're in this beautiful, intricate web together. And I've been so privileged to, I just want to give the backstory first. I've been privileged to travel and see so much, but the one big takeaway for me is not all the glamour of travel, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's been a privilege, yes, but the thing that I am left with is how, oh wow, we can all, every single individual, have a profound impact. It's a double-edged sword. You can have a negative impact, and you can also have a really big, powerful impact in a great way. And that's what I want to inspire people and show them stories where people with very little, little political power, little, resources are making the most incredible changes for the good in their communities. And I think these stories are just as important to show and shine a light on and amplify their voices as the stories that divide us. But my great shift was, I started learning this very universal truth 20 years ago, or 20 plus years ago, when I was covering these conflicts and poverty and the horrors. And I started to see in every one of those situations, I met the most extraordinary human beings that gave me so much cause, like for hope. And they inspired me to go out and find my best version of who I am and what impact I could have. And that it wasn't just about taking beautiful or profound pictures. It was telling stories that hopefully ignite action. That's really why I do this. And then I had this great moment 10 years ago when I met the last of, there were at the time 8 of these northern white rhinos, an entire species of rhinoceros, and they were all living in zoos. And I met them and I looked at them and you can see them. They're prehistoric. You understand immediately when you look at them that they have been roaming this planet for millions of years as a species, but that they couldn't survive us, mankind. And that perhaps 100 years ago, only 100 years ago, there were at least tens of thousands of them roaming the planet, maybe hundreds of thousands of them. And today, on that day, there were 8. And it just stopped me. I looked at them and I wept. I couldn't believe that we did this. And I looked at them and understood that in my lifetime, they were probably going to go extinct. And so it just stopped me, made me do a whole 180. I stopped all of the work I was doing at that time and realized, wait a minute, every single story I had been telling about humanity was actually a story about nature and the natural world. You may not always realize it at first, but it is one and the same. You can't talk about nature without talking about people, and vice versa. You can't talk about nature without talking about people, right? I don't know if I just said the same thing, but it's one and the same, that connection. I felt like we were always leaving that piece of the story out.
I remember this image you captured, and I just want to paint this for the audience. When that, it sounds like a stalker who have been following every step of your career because it's so impactful for me. Part of it is just because I didn't have the strength that you have to pursue in that area. We can talk about that in a bit. But the imagery about the white rhino is one of the most impactful image that resonate with me today. Is these rhinos are now 8 of them left at that time. They were in zoos, but it's not what you guys think. They're surrounded by soldiers with guns protecting them. And it's the craziest image when you see that we're protecting a species, whether it's animals or people, because we know people destroy people too. But this pivotal image made me reflect on what my responsibility and what am I doing in the world that I'm in, because I'm in a fashion world, and we call these editorial we shoot stories, by the way. We use that word very loosely because it's 10 pages, the woman jumping, hopping, and we go, that story. Now it has surface purpose, it does have a purpose to bring joy to people who love fashion. We're all very different. However, this was about extinction. This is about the social impact, what fashion people are doing to the world, what everyday people are doing to the world. So it really had a strong footprint in me. I'm lost in words because that image is so powerful. And for those you guys haven't seen it, please make sure you Google it and you'll find it. Then I remember this, that you were on an assignment, then you got a phone call.
Well, actually, no, this was a self-assignment. This was purely driven. I funded all of this. I've been working on this, just going relentlessly over 10 years. It took me 10 years, but in March of 2018, I got the call and they said, hurry back. This is at Old Pejeta Conservancy. And they said, Sudan, he's the last northern white male rhino. He's about to pass away. So I dropped everything I was doing, got on a plane, got there. And when I arrived, it was the most heartbreaking moment of my lifetime. I hope I never have to experience something like this again, but he was surrounded by all the people that loved him and protected him. And it was so eerie because usually in nature, it's actually quite noisy. Nature's not quiet. The birds are chirping, there's noise, like life is loud when you're out in the natural world. And on that day, it was like the whole world was mourning with him. It was totally silent. All you could hear was the gentle drops of rain, the quiet, muffled sobs of these men and women that protected and loved this creature. And this bird called a go-away bird, madly chirping, just like screaming. And it was so haunting. And I've talked to the keepers about this often. It was such a haunting moment. And then that rhino leaned his heavy head into Jojo, one of the keepers, to say his last goodbye. Jojo went up to, comfort him, and he leaned into him. And it's like this, it's such a haunting moment. It's also a beautiful moment because what it does is it exhibits the best of humanity, these men and women who sacrifice their lives. Really, they spend more time with these creatures than they do their own families. They're there with them 24/7, sleeping, protecting them. It's not easy. People say, I want to go and volunteer. Let me tell you, it is a hard life, and they don't get paid much. They're out there, and they love them, and they understand the value that losing this species is not just the loss of a species. It's actually, impacting humanity too, as we all are beginning to understand. And it's also, I believe, a loss of wonder and the beautiful possibilities in this world. We need all these beautiful creatures, because guess what? We get so much of fashion gets its inspiration from the wild. Can you imagine a world without these creatures? Because I can't.
It from that point forward, when you shifted from journalistic war zones and critical places to capturing critical moment of animals, was that a shift that was difficult to do? Because it's a different kind of pain, I feel, when you capturing. Yes, there are beautiful birthing moments, there are beautiful flight and migration moments. At the same time, there are a lot of dark moments as well. What was it like photographing people, and now you're photographing animals and
Well,
nature?
yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting point that I brought into this narrative. So what I found is, when I was doing this work in the beginning, it was like nature was like the Sistine Chapel. You never saw people inside the pictures.
Mm,
Like, people would go and do these blue chip documentary films that were amazing, because going on a safari and seeing all the natural world is incredible, but they always left people out of the story. And I was like, wait a minute. I work in these places, and I can tell you, people are a part of these stories, and that
wow,
by including humanity in this narrative, we can actually talk about what coexistence looks like and
that's
find.
powerful. That is so powerful.
Thank you. But like, finding a way forward involves communities, particularly indigenous communities, who hold the keys to saving what's left. They are the greatest protectors if you give the opportunities. And so I've been on this mission to find the hopeful stories where communities, against all odds, are making a profound impact. And like this morning, I got up at 6 a.m. to do an Instagram Live with the Riteti Elephant Sanctuary.
Yes.
And I'm doing a fundraiser right now. If anybody's interested, it's www.omaze.com/safari, and you enter for $10. And if you win, you and a guest will come on a private safari. I'll give you a private photo workshop. You'll meet the last northern white rhinos, and it will be the most life-changing experience. And guess what? Even if you don't win the safari, you win already, because these communities, this wildlife needs you now more than ever, because tourism is just dropped off the cliff, and that is impacting these communities. And if you check in the news, poaching is going up right now, because there's not the same tourism funding coming in to empower these communities. So it's all deeply connected. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
But what I do have to address this is that, as a woman, when you work in these places that are extremely rigorous and difficult, will you ever questioned by people who give you an assignment, can you handle it? Because
Oh,
I feel like, because in our industry, women are marginalized for a long, long time. Since the last 3 years of Me Too movement had really turned the tide that made the industry realize that we need women's perspective, not on just on the other side of the camera, but behind the camera. And one of the reasons I'm having this week dedicated to women photographers is that, because when I first started in the industry, I was a writer and I wrote for women directors, and I connect with them more, understand how to paint an image with them. And I know, I hear the conversation with them go up against a job against another male photographer or male director, and how much of it is about, am I going to be able to break through this being a woman? What was that like for you?
well, I don't know I think it's actually, in this industry, it's challenging no matter what gender you are. There's not a ton of money in conservation. And here's what I did. Yeah, I felt like it was tough on a lot of different levels, but I never looked at that. I
Wow.
found a way. I feel like if you want to do something badly enough, there is always a way. And I literally did Kickstarter. Like I raised the money myself. I mean, in the very, very beginning, if you want to flash back to my very beginning, I worked overtime. I began as an editor working on a desk. I worked every hour they would give me. And I saved up all my money and invested in the story. I applied for grants. By the way, for aspiring storytellers, I've got a whole resource page on my website that lists all these opportunities for, for filmmakers, photographers, storytellers, because I've been there. I do this every day. It's a struggle. My other phone is ringing. I basically raised the money myself, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go do the work and then present it to the magazines, because I knew that there was a story there. And actually, when I first started covering the rhino story, I pitched it to everybody I knew, and they all said no. And I went back and asked them again, like, well, why do you not want this story? And they said, oh, it's a great story for radio, but it's not going to be visual enough. And I was like, oh, no, wait, it will be. And I understand that's part of the issue sometimes. When you're unknown, people don't know who you are. They don't know what kind of vision you're going to bring to it. And so I find that very often you just have to go do the work, do the hard work, bring it back, and you will find a home for it. And, I feel like we all have challenges no matter what. Don't put it in the optics of gender. For me, that's not what it's about. It's tough. It's a tough world for everyone.
I understand, but however, you are a inspiration to so many women out there because what you have been able to accomplish, not just in the voice, but making awareness in conservation and raising awareness this morning about Kenya. But it is. I know what you're saying. You're so humble and so gracious that way, but I like to champion the fact that I've been out in Africa. I know how difficult it is. I personally, when I came back from Kenya, I went through a culture shock. I couldn't speak for 2 weeks because it literally, I didn't understand why the cars moving so fast. Everything would just, I stood at the airport. I did not know how to move. And my colleagues had to physically move me. And that feeling. I didn't know what to do. I was like, this is the, and then then I began to question, can I do it again? Can I do it again? And that was a pivotal time for my career change. I went from wildlife biologist to study art. And that was because of the blessing of somebody else who thought I have the ability and talent that I should pursue. However, I know what's like to be out there and you get on top of a moving train to shoot boys dancing in India. And when I see you do all these things, I can't help but say, this is a woman out there, because a lot of these are cultural diversity don't embrace women in the position you're in. I'm fascinated. That's why I celebrate you as a women photographer, not because I think gender has anything to do with it, but because you have to work harder.
I hear you. I'm a typical woman. Like I actually think being humble is beautiful and being
incredible.
Beautiful. And I don't feel like I need to talk, but I will say this for anybody watching, I began as a painfully shy, introverted young girl. Never had any dreams like what I could be doing today. And I will just say this, take that first baby step. It's terrifying. But when you put yourself, take a risk sometimes, bet on yourself that you can do this. And don't, every time the negative narratives start playing in your head that you can't do it, just try quietly for yourself only. Try one step at a time, and you will be amazed at the capacity each and every single human being has. I look back on the things I did, and now I'm like, I can't believe that. I didn't know that I could do that. I think it's about just taking a little bit of risk, and also realizing that in our most challenging moments, that is the greatest opportunity for our biggest transformation, that you should be in a place of discomfort every now and again, because that's when you're going to grow the most and be the best version of who you are. And I never regret the toughest moments of my life had made me who I am. And I am now, pretty confident in who I am because I did struggle and I did have moments of, it was uncomfortable a lot of the time, and discomfort brings the best version of who we are. And the other last thought I have is that we all have the capacity to reinvent ourselves, and that
Absolutely.
this is the most beautiful moment for it. So if anybody out there is feeling despair or struggling, embrace it. Get through it, because you're going to come on the other side of it and find so much more of who you are and your beautiful path that we are all meant to have, every single one of us. And
I agree. I could not agree with you
look at
more.
you. You've transformed yourself, what, like 20 times?
So many times. I lost count.
And how did you do it? Now I want to push back the questions on you.
Wow. Well, let me again say thank you. Thank you for those inspirational thoughts at the time like this is what we really needed. And to answer your question, I as an immigrant that came in from Taiwan, and for those your audience who don't know me, is that I came to the United States, and I was so grateful I did, because when I was in Asia, that I was not a good academic. I was the worst. I went from school to school. I got kicked out of every school. I was incredibly like you. I wasn't shy, but I was incredibly awkward. And way to describe that is that for one whole entire year, I would wear a mask that I made that's like a rabbit with ears, and I would put that mask on me every single day when I walked to school, and I take it off and hide it in the bushes and go back and get it. And that mask eventually fall apart, and I would make another one. And it was I can't, I need to go to therapy probably to tell you exactly what that means, but I was hiding behind that mask for a year. And I remember that path because recently I got to go back to Taiwan, and I walked that path again, and it brought up so much emotion because I was that awkward kid that I thought I could never be. And my family is Asian family, usually push their kid to be better. I was a second child, so culturally, whatever happens to you happens to you. It's no big deal. We have a first son; he's going to be great. And when we moved to the United States, everything changed for me. We're all on the same starting point. My brother was going to be smarter than me because he's better in Chinese. I'm going to learn English at the same time he's going to learn English. I'm going to develop at the same. I had a new starting block, and that's when I began to know what I want to be, who I want to be, and that was the same person who I was in Taiwan. It wasn't that I changed. It was that I was in an environment that allowed me to be who I truly always been, and that's the biggest blessing to have, is having, land of dreams in America. You can do whatever you want, and that truly I embrace, and be able to go, okay, this. I can accept who I am, and that's childhood basically. But in terms of career, I love animals from day one because I didn't have any friends. I was socially awkward. I
Totally.
didn't. I was. You can tell still probably.
Animals are our greatest relief for so many of us. They help.
And the funny enough, my mom listening to you laugh because this rabbit thing never left me. There's one day when my mom doesn't come to my room, and my room is always the outside room, the garage converted room, really far away because I'm just a weird loner. And in high school, as you can picture it, everybody has football player they admire, swimsuit models they admire, plastering all over their walls. I had rabbits. Every species of rabbits that I could find, Xerox, and I plastered the entire wall. I was just surrounded by rabbits. I don't know what these days, but I felt safe with them. They were cuddly, and when I opened my eyes, there were hundreds of rabbits always around me, and that was how I lived through my high school. So imagine the teasing, and because of awkwardness, I joined Future Farmers of America because that's where I can be around animals.
Wow, good for you.
I wanted to be I wanted to be around. I found my confidence. Funny enough, I never talked about this. It just came up because you asked. I found my confidence in public speaking in becoming a showmanship champion for pigs and sheep. And yeah, so because of my personality is so awkward when not, but when I'm in the ring, I'm kind of like those dogs that kind of flops around but when you put a collar on them, they go into the ring and just step up and they become perfect. I was that guy. You give me a cane, I can train a pig and walk around. I can catch a ram and show it off and make them beautiful. And I realized that I know how to make animals beautiful and how they make me feel. And that's how I really fell into wildlife biology, and I studied for it. And I did finish my degree, guys. Few of them actually. And then art came into my life, and that took off to where I'm here today. So and every single one of those moments were very much, you said, it's very pivotal. It wasn't a gradual change. It
Right.
was something that pivotally happened. And I went to art school because somebody believed in me. So I believed in my work, a journal I was keeping in Africa. And it looked like Peter Beer's work, that without me even knowing who Peter Beer was. I was collecting leaves and leaf prints. As you know, as you travel around the world, you collect things that you cannot take back. Then you photograph them, or you do marker transfers. You find ways to collect these
What?
things to bring back.
That sounds amazing. What is that?
So I would do plant transfer with charcoal, so I can get every veins on the plant. So when I come back, I can identify them, because I didn't have, I didn't know what the plants were, and you can't take them back because you can introduce a new species of plants here. So, and it's not like back in the day, it's not like now you can take a phone, you snap it, and the app that tells you what plant it is. We were creating the index for that app that you guys use now. So it was through that time when I came back, and the professor has said to me, you should look into medical illustration, because we really need that in the industry. Again, I'm dating myself because we didn't have computer graphics yet then. Um, I was like, there's no way. I study so hard. I want to go to British Columbia. I want to apply for PhD. I want to do research. I want to go back to Kenya. No. Well, she took my portfolio, which she called a portfolio. I called it a sketchbook, and gave it to Art Center Pasadena. And a few weeks later, she called me into her office and said, wow, you have a decision to make. They're going to give you a full scholarship to go there.
Whoa.
And that was a pivotal moment of my life. And as a college student who have taken off enough loans, and we're all in debt when we're in college. I was like, okay, let's do the math. I'm Asian, so I'm pretty good at math. Let me think. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, free school, I'll take it. How long is it going to be? And I'll put up with it. If I don't like it, I can always quit because it's free school, and I'll go back to get my PhD. And well, I haven't got my PhD, but I'm here. And but all of that, like you said, I think is so important, is because that I wasn't afraid of change. I was never afraid of change. Even at that school, I was told I was the worst painter. They're going to kick me out unless I change my major. I'm like, fine, change my major. It was kind of just a way. And because of all these journeys and passage I had gotten, experience in Kenya, experience of traveling with doing research, my work was defined by that. I was doing a lot of work that evolves around nature, where other art students never had those experience, would be able to bring that to their work. So that's what happened with me. But yes, pivotal changes, and not afraid to change, I think definitely it. But I never had the courage like you, to be able to go through what you have gone through. Because for you guys out there, yes, when you're in Kenya, when she says glamorous traveling, she's lying. I, as a photographer who works fashion, gets glamorous traveling in first class when celebrity wants me to shoot. I'll be the first to admit it. You don't get to do that. You go to Kenya, you're on a puddle plane, and you dig holes and go to the bathroom. I know I had to. I know there are places you've been that there's no water for weeks. And you, truly what you do is nothing like what we do as photographers in this business. Nothing like it.
Well, no, and I actually do want to say one thing is that, Kenya is amazing, and I want people to travel there, and there's
So beautiful.
lodges and places you can stay. And it's true, like sometimes I'll do rougher things, but there's actually,
The
for
giraffe manor. The giraffe manor.
and
Oh,
the other thing I just want to say, for people that are thinking about traveling after all of this is over, when you travel, I'm actually now an ambassador, a wildlife ambassador for an organization called Tread Right, and they're on June 3rd. They're going to launch some guides how to be a good traveler, really, and how to engage with wildlife in a way that doesn't harm them. And I encourage you to check that out. But here's my kind of the little takeaways I want to say. Our travel can be really impactful in a positive way when we do the research and we go to places where our tourism dollars are going back into the communities so they have a reason to protect the wildlife. So that's one thing to think about. And if anybody wants to write me, I can give them a whole list of amazing places to visit if, when you start thinking about travel again, and realize that travel is actually important for so many reasons.
Absolutely.
It's important for us as humans to, to learn about each other in this world and feel that connection again.
I love that you have a positivity to all of it. And the fact is, when I look at you, and I so appreciate that. And I think, yes, for the listeners out there, I'm not trying to scare you that you have to dig a hole to go to the bathroom to go on safari. That's not the point. But when it comes to work, when it comes to be able to capture this image, I mean, look at the photo of you in the water. It could have been in Congo. It could be like, I mean, all the parasites in that water, all the I don't know how many times you got malaria. I have malaria 3 times already. And it's I know when I see those pictures, it's not luxurious. And that's what I'm talking about. But yes, glamorous traveling, Giraffe Manor is one of the most beautiful places. I got to stay there. You wake up in the morning, you can see the giraffe. They come through the window. It's amazing. And Vogue shoots there all the time. Yes, that's
I don't want attention on me, but it's the truth. I'm completely comfortable in all kinds of situations.
That's my point. It's crazily amazing because I read your stories. I know you were in a place where there was no water for 2 weeks, and people look at you like, how are you going to survive in this village with us? We have 2 bags of rice left. Oh my God, I sound like I know everything about you, but I do, because I'm so appreciative that you're putting such a positive spin to all this. And in fact, it is what we need. But I mentioned those things because I want people to know how strong you are and how amazing it is that when we flip over a magazine and see a beautiful bird sitting on the back of a rhino, somebody's in the bushes, waited for hours.
No, years. No, it's true.
Years.
It's true. Like, you look at images and they take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, for sure. And it's not easy. There's so many challenges, but the physical challenges are the easy ones, to be honest.
The mental ones are what kills you.
Yeah, we're a lot stronger than we realize, and the physical challenges I like because they're temporary; they go away. That's how
I love you said that. That is so profound. I mean, we don't think it like that. But one thing I do want to make a parallel for the audience that we have, and I think we can have talks over and over. I would love to have a lecture with you because it's such an amazing parallel. When it comes to how frustrated we get when we work with models on set, guys who are photographers out there, you know how I'm the Gordon Ramsay style of coaching for years and years. Had to adjust, been adjusting, so don't come for me with DMs. But the fact is that we have no patience and passion.
right.
Go, runways, go. And here's a wonderful, incredible human being right here that can teach us what patience does to capture a beautiful image. And we don't have the luxury in our business to do that. We truly don't. But
your world is so different.
I know that you haven't probably seen a lot of the work. My earlier work in photography, I worked with this group, conservation group who had kept tigers and lions, and every single dollar we ever photographed and goes back to preservation. So in the very beginning of my career, I was shooting leopards with models. I was shooting tigers with Sienna Millers. I'll share those images with you. And I'm very proud of them because they were my way of contributing back to the conservation part of the community. And I hope one day, I hope Vogue's listening. I hope Harper's Bazaar is listening and have you actually do assignment and give you the most amazing Pember trip because you deserve it. And shoot fashion in the way you shoot Indigenous people because they are the most beautiful, amazing images. I have chills. And I just remember, I am going to email you a picture of me in Samburu costume, jumping with them. And that single image, it's a reflection that I wish that you photographed it, but you bring so much joy to me because it's everything that I aspire to be as a human being, not just as a photographer, in a compassion for animals. It's incredible, truly.
You're wonderful, and you're making people feel beautiful, and we all work in different ways. But
I hope so, because some days I don't think I am. Sometimes I'm like, did I just make her feel not pretty? it's not just that, this time, and we talked a little bit about this on the phone, that during this time, it's such an amazing time for us to reevaluate what our purpose are. And I do treasure and love this time because I said this many times, I feel like we're all back to the same starting block. It's kind of like how I first came to the United States. I had to figure out how to learn English all over again. And we're all learning how to walk all over again and learning how to run again. And what I love the most is that it's a pandemic, not a singular country. We're all feeling it, and we're all at the starting block. And you can choose now. You want to run a marathon when we can run, or you're going to run a sprint, or you're going to run with the people around you and help each other along the way. That's how I get through every day, and trying to figure out how to make sure that I run a marathon, not try to run a sprint. Because in the fashion world, that's all we do is running sprints, and we pass people by. When they're gone, next, gone, next. And I hope that we are learning to change that about who we are in this industry.
Well, that is a beautiful parting thought, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I guess that my parting thought is similar in that I hope that we all reimagine, embrace, really hold on to the stillness. It won't last, but embrace it and reimagine, I think, a way forward that we are all a little more thoughtful about each other, empathy, and also for the natural world. The natural
Absolutely
world needs our help too. So thank you.
That's what photography is supposed to do, guys. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help you learn and embrace moments. And please look at Amy's work and support her foundation, that what she has worked on. And I am so absolutely honored to have you to be with me. Thank you so much. And I will continue to stalk you because now I have your phone number and your email. So you're not going far away from my life. She doesn't realize it, but I'm not kidding. I'm going to be texting her when she's in Kenya or whatever. Go FaceTime me there. I want to see what's going on. You're not getting away to me that easy just because it's a nice, beautiful parting thought. But all in all, you are such an inspiration to so many of us. And guys out there, for those of you who just jumped in or missed some of our talk, she has amazing lectures online, and she also teaches photography online. And please, everywhere you support, I watched. I told you I'm a stalker, and
yeah, I'm actually teaching a 3-course workshop coming up starting next week. I've got the Omaze campaign you could win a trip, a safari after the pandemic is over, and have a private workshop with me. But I've got a lot going on, and most of it is involved with trying to, support different communities that are doing incredible work and inspire.
Amy, if we can ever do a course together as a crossover between fashion and wildlife, it could be pretty fascinating. I would actually love that.
All right. Well, you had a wonderful long weekend. Lots of love.
Thank you so much. Now that's a true inspiration. What a humble, incredible human being she is. And please make sure you look up Ami Vitale's work online. It's captivating. It is heartbreaking at the same time. It's so joyful to look at her images and travel with her, especially during this time that we don't get to travel. Her imagery will transport you to so many different places, and some might bring you some tears and some might bring you some joys, but most of them give you authenticity, and that's what her work is like for me. So I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope you enjoyed this week's amazing women photographers who have shared their journey with us. I hope you got as much inspiration as I did, and I will continue to be here next week to be with you guys. I want to thank you again and again, and all my amazing guests this whole entire week, from photographer like Kat Erlin, Zoe Grossman, Kay Powers, you guys, and an iconic photographer like Anna Minky. You guys have been so beautifully inspiring to all of us, and continue to do great work while watching, and we're celebrating with you. And women empowerment, of course. Thank you all very much for joining me. I'll see you again next week. This is Yu Tsai saying, have a wonderful weekend. And in the meantime, please make sure you stay healthy and stay strong out there. Have a good day.